Here we go again. Now we have an executive order that will make it illegal for homeless people to sleep on the street. I'm not sure exactly where else they're supposed to be sleeping, but let's think about it all together, right? So we are cutting SNAP benefits, we are cutting Medicaid benefits, we are cutting child care programs for low-income families, and we are cutting housing programs, the programs that keep people housed. And then once they've lost everything because they don't have any assistance whatsoever and they make $12 an hour, they will then be arrested for living on the streets. Why are we doing it? Oh, would you look at that? Not so that we could save money. We're not saving any money. We're giving all of that money to the rich.
Hello guys, how are you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Amy and this is Trending Pulse Worldwide. And if you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm glad you're here. Kindly consider subscribing and joining the family and also turning on your notifications so you don't miss out on any new episode. So today we are talking about something that's been making rounds online, and it's concerning Trump's new executive order on homelessness. And a lot of Americans are not happy and they are speaking out on platforms. So basically, this executive order is about removing homeless people from public spaces, and some are calling it criminalization of homelessness. And while there are people who support it, saying the streets need to be cleaned up, there are also many who are asking the real questions: where exactly are people supposed to go? And as you know, housing is already unaffordable, and some people are working 2 jobs and still can't pay rent. And we are seeing videos of working people living in cars, in tents, and in shelters that are overcrowded. And now with this order, they're expected to disappear off the streets. But to where exactly? That's the big issue. Now, point to note, most of these people didn't just choose to be homeless. It's the economy, it's the rent prices, the lack of support. And instead of fixing those things, the focus is now on moving the problem out of sight. So let's see what some Americans are saying about it, then I'll be back.
So today, Trump signed an executive order making homelessness illegal. It is now illegal to sleep, camp, or loiter on a public street. Not only that, but they will forcibly institutionalize the homeless. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to forcibly remove people from the streets, funnel them into hospitals, and then they've updated the criteria needed to forcibly commit somebody to make it easier to institutionalize these individuals. Basically, anyone who's homeless who has a mental illness, which I used to work at homeless shelters. I collected the data. Almost all of them have some form of mental illness because being on the street is fucking depressing. And what is so fucking insidious about this is that we are in a time where you cannot afford to pay your rent, to afford your mortgage. Our housing prices are fucking ridiculous, and this criminalizes poverty. Because you are poor, you can now be institutionalized forcibly without due process and no way to defend yourself or get out. Not only that, they're cutting housing first programs that provide housing to homeless people without requiring a laundry list of things they need to do first, because most people who work with the homeless know that laundry list when people are in survival mode is fucking impossible. It is a lot easier for people to get off drugs, to be mentally stable when they have a home. Basically, as they are making poverty worse in this country, they want to make the people that are the symptoms of that issue just fucking disappear. Also, our system cannot handle that many institutionalized people. I worked in homeless shelters in Seattle. We barely had enough beds for those folks. We were always full. There are like 16,000 homeless people in Seattle. There are not that many beds in institutions. And most of those institutions run on Medicaid funds, which they are actively cutting. So where the fuck are they sending these people?
And you can tell that people are seriously frustrated, and this isn't even about politics at this point. It's about basic human dignity. And Americans are asking, why is there so much focus on pushing people away instead of investing in solutions? And yes, we've all seen the news coverage. They always highlight the extreme cases, showing people who are violent or struggling with drug use. But let's be honest, that's not every homeless person. And some are just down on their luck. Some lost job during the pandemic. Others had medical emergencies that drained their savings. Some escaped abusive situations. There are families with children, veterans, and yes, working adults who just can't afford today's rent. But when you watch the news, you rarely see those stories, and you don't see how people got there, only what they've become, and it's not fair. And now, with this executive order, people fear that instead of receiving help, the homeless will just be pushed further into danger, away from any kind of support, away from food programs, away from any chance at recovery.
So Trump just signed an EO that makes being homeless enough of a reason to lock you up. No crime, no warrant, just nowhere to sleep. So Trump signed an executive order that lets the federal government round up homeless people, especially if they have an addiction or mental health issues, and force them into institutions against their will. That's not help. That's prison with new paint. Understand, this is not about safety and all about control. They cut funding for housing, push people into poverty, and now they're going to punish them for it. And let's be real, Republican-led states are going to jump at the chance to enforce this, to vilify homeless people as much as they possibly can. But imagine if a Democrat tried this. If Biden signed an order to lock up poor people, they would burn down this country while screaming tyranny at the same time. But now, crickets. And they claim it's about cleaning up the streets. No, it's about cleaning poor people off the map, because last I checked, being poor was not a crime until now. This is cruel, and if we don't stop it now, the only difference between you and that other person is a missed paycheck.
The United States government is using the homeless as free and cheap labor to replace those who were deported by Donald Trump. There is a massive labor shortage in the United States following Trump's deportations. This could have serious economic impact on the United States, but Donald Trump has come up with a solution. Just yesterday, he signed an executive order essentially telling cities and states to criminalize the homeless. This would allow those states to lock up the homeless and use them as free and cheap labor. Because in the United States, slavery is still allowed if it's a punishment for a crime. And doing this would allow the United States to gain back that workforce that they lost at the same cost or better than paying those who are undocumented. Because the corporations do not want to pay Americans a fair, livable wage for the work that undocumented immigrants have done in this country for so long. So the United States will do what it's always done and find a group of people that it can exploit for labor.
Now, this kind of approach doesn't fix anything. It just shifts the suffering somewhere else. And people are asking, where are they supposed to go? Like, literally where? You can't just remove tents and pretend the problem is gone. These are human beings. This is someone's mother, brother, cousin. People who have hit hard times. And instead of helping them, they are being treated like criminals. And it's not just those on the streets who are worried. This policy is making even working class folks anxious. Because these days, you can be fully employed and still not afford stable housing. Like I said, rent is sky high, wages haven't caught up, and a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, just one emergency away from being in that same position. And now instead of support, there's punishment. And the executive order sounds more like a cleanup campaign for appearances, and it's like they're trying to protect businesses, tourism, and gentrified neighborhoods, and not the vulnerable people who actually need protection. And people are saying it's heartless because it is. It's dangerous and it sets a scary precedent. And some are pointing out that instead of putting money into long-term housing solutions, addiction services, or mental health care, cities are investing in law enforcement and surveillance. And that's where the money is going, to sweep people off sidewalks and call it progress. And this part really got to people. How quickly they are moving to criminalize survival. If you're sleeping in a tent or resting on a sidewalk, it's now a legal issue. You know, that's wild. And it's like the goal is to make homelessness invincible instead of unthinkable. And there's also a concern about how this order gives more power to local authorities to decide what's disorderly. And that's opening the door to all kinds of abuse and discrimination. It gives room for profiling, for targeting people who just look like they don't belong. And that's what people are scared of as well, being treated like a threat just for being poor. And don't forget, once someone gets a criminal record from just trying to survive, then it becomes even harder to get a job, get housing, or get back on their feet. And it becomes a vicious cycle. And this could trap people instead of helping them climb out. And at the end of the day, what people are really saying is this is not leadership, this is not compassion, and this is not justice. It's performative, it's cruel, and it does more harm than good. So guys, what do you think about this? Does this executive order sound like a solution to you, or does it just feel like punishment dressed up as policy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching Trending Pulse Worldwide. My name is Amy, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay blessed.